Basin, episode 9. This is my Southwest Idaho inspired build. Right now, we are getting started off with some cinematics, extensive cinematics, which I don't normally do. That's because I want to show off a lot of work that I've done before recording this episode. You may notice things look a little bit different than the previous episodes, and not just in terms of city growth. If you go back a couple episodes, you'll see that the landscape looks completely different. I'm just going to talk about this while we get started over some of the other work that we're doing. Anyways, I have a brand new map theme that's the Springwood map theme based off of the Springwood build by $2.20 made by Ronix, the map theme. Anyway, I just want to jump into some Google Earth really fast to show you what the inspiration for today's build is. This is Cascade, Idaho, and this is kind of some styles that we're going to be building after today. But I'll go ahead and talk about the theme a little bit more. Basically, what I did is consolidated everything. I took out a couple mods, I'll tell you which ones in a little bit. But basically, instead of running Theme Mixer with a ton of different themes, map themes, all I did is ended up looking for something I really liked, just one theme, and that ended up being Springwood. So really happy with that. I think it looks really awesome, and regardless, it helps with performance. So yeah, I'm using the Springwood map theme, so I did do a lot of repainting and everything around to get things to match up with a little different textures, because when you do switch, if you haven't done that before, there is stuff that you have to do. Just to keep it consistent with what it was. But I think that because of this, we get a much better green grass for what we're doing, and we also just get the desert part, which is something that I ended up incorporating a lot more of, because this part of Idaho, Southwest Idaho, it has a lot of, and I think it looks really good with the Springwood texture thrown in there. But another thing I did, basically what took the most time, is I spent close to a week working on redoing the map, basically. So what I did was completely added 3 different sets of mountain ranges, and I built up a lot of stuff. You'll see a little bit more in the cinematics, but basically we have much more of a prominent desert. The mountains are so much more better, the foothills are so much more better, and altogether, it looks amazing. With that being said, that was a lot of rambling. I mean, we're 3 minutes in and I haven't really talked about what we're doing, so with that being said, I'm going to talk about a little bit of what we're doing on screen now, and then get back into some other stuff. But right now, we are working on the first main industry area of Wood River Basin. So this is way off to the, I want to say it's the south of the city. It sucks not having an actual compass to figure things out, but regardless, this is a whole town based around the logging industry, the forestry industry. And I do have the Industries DLC at this point recording. As I said previously, if you were keeping up with the series, which by the way, I highly recommend you do, check out the other stuff, because I'm really loving this build. I didn't have Park Life or Industries, but now I do, so it's super fun to be able to use those tools. But anyway, what we are doing is creating this town that is centered around forestry. So it's a small town. I did do some work off camera to increase things, but basically it is a completely self-sufficient town. It's got its own services and all of that, but it's just on a much smaller scale. And basically there's a whole bunch of mountains with a whole bunch of forestry, and there's houses nearby for the workers, but basically all of the wood it's cut down, it's processed, and it's shipped, either exported or transported to other areas of the map, where it's then processed further and used in unique factories. We did put one unique factory down over by the airport, and that is a furniture factory, so that we only need wood and paper for that. Or I should say, like, processed timber and paper. So, just to keep it simple at that point. But at some point, we will add more factories, but we need to work on... I think oil is coming next. Oil will probably be the next industry I work on. But regardless. Speaking of the airport, though, while I quickly mentioned it, if you watched episode 8, I mentioned so often that Officer Lee was going to be taking over episode 9 again to do the airport. That's not the case. We're sitting here with episode 9. His video got delayed a tiny bit, but it should be coming out this weekend. And if you're watching this, the day it's released, it's a Wednesday, so this weekend should be what I believe is episode 10. Unless we do weird things. We have a habit of messing with scheduling. Anyway, though, I want to talk back to a little bit of what I did, because I added a couple mods, and I also removed a couple mods, and ended up with much better performance. So the first thing I did was I took out Theme Mixer, which seems weird for someone who wants to make a detailed city to take it out, but as I said, I went down to Springwood, just Springwood, nothing else, and so I did Theme Mixer, and it ended up saving me just insane amounts of frames, which I still want to have a playable city, something that's enjoyable to work on. Another thing I took out was network skins. That's the mod where you can adjust, like, the trees, you can adjust, what else, like, lights, lampposts, stuff like that. I took it out. I lose a little bit of control, but that was another huge deal in terms of frames, so I can't complain too much. I also added Vanilla Trees Remover, I believe it's called. So, no more ugly vanilla trees. Everything else is completely controlled. That does mean, though, there are roads with trees that spawn in. The trees aren't there, so I kind of have to do an extra step and put trees down, but nevertheless, I think it does work out pretty well. Another thing I added is a cube map replacer and I believe it's the HDR Havens cube map. So the clouds look more realistic and look really, really cool. Unfortunately, the cube map replacer doesn't support night at this time, so there's a really jarring transition between daytime and nighttime in terms of the sky, but that should be fixed at some point. They're at least aware that it exists as a thing, so regardless, those are kind of the changes that I made to the game visually and in terms of performance, so really excited to kind of have much better performance and some better graphics as well. I mean, you really can't complain about better graphics and better performance at the same time. So anyway, we're really getting down to work here in the industries here. You can see we're putting down a sawmill, and we also have a paper plant that we put down, and it looks amazing. I really like how the whole town kind of sprouts out from this one intersection, which is, I mean, it's realistic to how towns form, but I think it just looks amazing to see it kind of grow almost in an organic way ourselves, even though we've placed everything together, which it's super cool. Obviously, as I kind of work, I've increased things. You can see the amount of trucks that pour out is insane. That's even with their Rebalanced Industries mod that kind of changes the amount of trucks that need to drive around. But regardless, it still looks amazing. It's just a lot of trucks. I put in a raw timber storage facility just for the straight logs. Figured it's good. If there's excess, stick them there, and then if the production rate is lower, then it'll be lower. Another thing you saw me do there with Traffic Manager President Edition is try to promote the use of parking lots. People like to park on the streets despite having a parking lot like half a block away, so if I can get the cars in the parking lot to fill it up, I think that'll look better. Another thing that's interesting is as time goes on, the amount of production kind of changes, and so it's interesting to see how the Industries DLC kind of works, because I had never played around with it before. This is my first time jumping straight into it, so I'm kind of running around checking the status of everything, because I was worried that it wasn't going to work, and that would suck. Speaking of parking, people were up on the dirt roads in the mountains with their, like, streetcars. That wouldn't work normally, so, again, just turned off parking, and they went into the parking lot, which is how I intended it. Funny how that works out, right? Anyway, as production demands increase, I ended up adding a second processing facility there, so that'll up things. Another thing that I'm doing that I've noticed is just realistic to cities is paying attention to the amount of parking and open space that exists, because quite often there's just a lot of parking that's available in cities. And I think that just the little details of adding extra driveway space, a laid-down yard, or parking to any part of a city really improves the look of it. I threw down a couple props just to add some detail, and again, as I'm playing around with the actual gameplay, I'm running back and forth, but it is what it is. Anyway, as demand grows, we will kind of adjust things and see what happens. I was going to work in the city for a little bit, but I decided against it. I'm still looking around, though. As I said, in future episodes, well, first, episode 10, Officer Lee's going to take over, so head to his channel and check out the video in the future. Slightly different recording session here. I'm just going to do a little bit of detail work here and there, but regardless, it still should be pretty good. Adding in some lines for some added detail, because why not, you know? Gotta make it look good. And this is where we actually start the residential side of Ivy Valley, which, by the way, unless someone suggests a better name, I think Ivy Valley is the name that we are going to go with. It was generated by the game, and so I like it for this district. Ivy Valley is kind of the name of the mountain town. However, our main downtown city is still unnamed, so if you do have name suggestions, please drop a comment down below. I would love to hear ideas for the downtown. So, one thing we're doing is really carving the sweeping road up here. Really like the look of it. And then, one of the meticulous things about working in this forest is having to go through with the bulldozer tool and deleting all of the trees that spawned through the road. Or I guess, technically the road spawned through them. Whatever. But we're just dragging the roads around, deleting, and using a mixture of Find It and the eyedropper tool to put in some of these lower houses. I don't have I looked around for some cabins, because I think it would be really cool to have log cabins in this area, but I ended up going for some shotgun houses and smaller residential houses by King Leno that really make it look good. They make up for not having a log cabin, because they're not super fancy houses. They're also they're not low income or anything. It's just a rural mountain town, so that looks good. And then using the tree brush thrown in there. That's another mod I added, because I don't think I mentioned that. The tree brush, throwing that in there. It just looks so good. And then in places where the tree brush can't reach, just using Move It to copy paste a bunch of trees in there. So I put a park in, kind of expanded it. The amount of people that are working in this town is crazy. And they all connect through the freeway down to the downtown city, which still needs a name. Drop a comment down below, please. Please. I need some ideas here. But anyway, in the future episodes, what you should expect from me after Officer Lee does the airport is I want to expand the residential area. I want to expand the commercial and a bit of the downtown, bulk up the actual city, and at some point, because the demand for schooling is so high, I would love to get definitely a high school and the start of the university. University is gonna be a fairly big project, but I'd love to get some work done with a high school or something like that, just throwing it around inside the town. I think it would look pretty good. But those are the plans for the future. That's pretty much what we were doing in today's episode, so we're getting towards the end, enough time for me to do the outro. If you guys did enjoy, please be sure to drop a like on the video. It helps show some support, and it does bring new people to the channel. Of course, if you are new here, please be sure to subscribe and enable notifications. Hit that little bell icon so you never miss out on any more of my future content. And if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, or suggestions, drop a comment down below. I would love to hear name ideas or build requests, all of that good stuff. Anyway, my name is MaxmovLive. Thank you guys so much for watching. I did some off-camera work here and there, so you'll see some of the more changes in the cinematics actually, but just final notes, we got through the outro a little early, whatever. Throwing in a little rural, do I say that word? Rural police station, and then a smaller fire station as well, but regardless, I really hope you guys do enjoy, and I'm going to return with music. We're going to hit some cinematics so you guys can see the changes. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys for watching.